Anthropocentrism, the belief that humans are the most important beings in the universe and that all else exists solely for our benefit, casts a long shadow over humanity. It's a deeply ingrained perspective woven into the fabric of many cultures, religions, and philosophies. While it has fueled remarkable advancements, its pervasive influence also carries significant consequences for our relationship with the planet and ourselves. Hello everyone, and welcome to Grimoire of Myths. Today we will discuss anthropocentrism and its effect on modern society. If you are new here, don't forget to leave a like or comment for more content. Now, let's begin. At its core, anthropocentrism fosters a sense of separation between humans and nature. We see ourselves as distinct from and superior to the natural world, granting ourselves the right to exploit and manipulate it for our ends. This mindset has driven our relentless pursuit of progress, leading to innovations in technology, medicine, and agriculture. We've built sprawling cities, harnessed vast resources, and transformed landscapes to suit our needs. Anthropocentrism interprets or regards the world in terms of human values and experiences. It is profoundly embedded in many modern human cultures and conscious acts. It is a major concept in the field of environmental ethics and environmental philosophy, where it is often considered to be the root cause of problems created by human action within the ecosphere. However, many proponents of anthropocentrism state that this is not necessarily the case. They argue that a sound long-term view acknowledges that the global environment must be made continually suitable for humans and that the real issue is shallow anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism is believed by some to be the central problematic concept in environmental philosophy, where it is used to draw attention to claims of a systematic bias in traditional Western attitudes to the non-human world that shapes humans' sense of self and identities. Many devoted environmentalists encompass a somewhat anthropocentric-based philosophical view, supporting the fact that they will argue in favor of saving the environment for the sake of human populations. Such a concern for human flourishing amidst the flourishing of life as a whole, however, is said to be indistinguishable from that of ecology and biocentrism, which has been proposed as both an antithesis of anthropocentrism and as a generalized form of anthropocentrism. For millennia, humankind has cast a long shadow over the Earth, its activities and beliefs shaping the world around it. At the heart of this influence lies anthropocentrism, the worldview that places humans at the center of the universe, granting us inherent worth and dominion over other beings and the environment. While anthropocentrism has fueled innovations and societal progress, its dark side emerges in the numerous disadvantages it presents, ranging from environmental destruction to ethical quandaries. Beyond the environmental realm, anthropocentrism fosters ethical dilemmas that challenge our understanding of justice and morality. It creates a hierarchy of value, placing humans at the pinnacle and relegating other beings to objects or instruments serving our ends. This can lead to the exploitation of animals in factory farms, the objectification of women and minorities, and the dismissal of intrinsic worth in anything that falls outside our narrow definition of human. By viewing other beings as mere resources, we deny them the moral consideration they deserve and foster a culture of domination and indifference to suffering. Anthropocentrism is believed by some to be the central problematic concept in environmental philosophy, where it is used to draw attention to claims of a systematic bias in traditional Western attitudes to the non-human world that shapes humans' sense of self and identities. Moreover, anthropocentrism hinders our ability to understand and appreciate the world around us. By seeing everything through the lens of human utility, we miss the inherent beauty and complexity of ecosystems, the intrinsic value of other species, and the interconnectedness of all living things. This not only impoverishes our experience of the world, but also limits our ability to develop solutions to global challenges that necessitate a broader, more holistic perspective. However, to delve deeper into anthropocentrism, one must look at individualism. Since anthropocentrism is looking at it from a macro level, while individualism is at the micro level. The concept of individualism casts a long shadow over modern discourse, promising liberation and self-expression. Yet, in the depths of the human psyche, a deeper and more nuanced process unfolds, one Carl Jung termed individuation. To truly understand Jung's perspective on individualism, we must delve into the distinction he draws between these seemingly synonymous terms. Individuation is a complex process that involves going through different stages of growing awareness through the progressive confrontation and integration of personal, unconscious elements. This is the central concept of analytical psychology, first introduced in 1916. It is the objective of Jungian psychotherapy to the extent that it enables the realization of the self. In contrast, individuation is not about asserting egotistical individualism, but rather about integrating the various facets of the psyche into a whole. It's a lifelong journey of facing our shadow, accepting our darker and less desirable aspects, and embracing the collective wisdom encoded within our unconscious. Through this process, we discover our authentic selves, not as isolated entities, but as unique expressions of the human condition. Here are some key pillars of Jung's critique of individualism and his vision for individuation. The persona. Jung saw the persona as the public mask we wear, conforming to social expectations and hiding our true inner selves. He believed that excessive identification with the persona can hinder individuation and disconnect us from our authentic core. The shadow. In the depths of the psyche lies the shadow, our repository of unacknowledged negative traits and impulses. While individualism often seeks to suppress the shadow, Jung saw its integration as crucial for wholeness and psychological health. Confronting and accepting the shadow allows us to move beyond self-deception and live with greater authenticity. The archetypes. Beyond the individual ego, Jung believed in the existence of archetypes, universal patterns embedded in the collective unconscious that shape our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Individuation necessitates acknowledging and integrating these archetypes, connecting us to a larger human narrative and fostering a sense of community and belonging. Individuation and relationship. For Jung, individuation is not about solitary isolation, but rather about enhancing our capacity for authentic and meaningful connection. By integrating our complexities, we become more open and empathetic towards others, strengthening our relationships and fostering a sense of social responsibility. Ultimately, Jung's work offers a profound alternative to the pitfalls of individualism. He envisions a path towards a more grounded and integrated self, one that embraces both personal uniqueness and our shared humanity. This journey of individuation is not always easy, but it promises a deeper understanding of oneself, a richer connection to others, and a more fulfilling experience of life. The aim of individuation is nothing less than to divest the self of the false wrappings of the persona, on the one hand, and the suggestive power of primordial images on the other. Individualism, according to Jung, often manifests as an outward projection of self, an emphasis on the unique and distinct aspects that set us apart from the collective. It can champion the individual ego at the expense of the deeper archetypal patterns and shared unconscious experiences that connect us all. This, he warns, can lead to isolation, selfishness, and an inflated sense of self-importance. According to Jung, individuation means becoming an individual and implies becoming one's self. Unlike individuality, which emphasizes some supposed peculiarity, Jung described individuation as a better and more complete fulfillment of the collective qualities of the human being. In his experience, Jung explained that individuation helped him, from the therapeutic point of view, to find the particular images that lie behind emotions. This pursuit of individualism aims to establish the self, which includes both the rational conscious mind of the ego and the irrational contents of the unconscious, as the new personality center. Before individuation, the individual is carefully assessed to determine if the ego is strong enough to take the intensity of this process. The elements to be integrated include the persona, which acts as the representative of the person in her or his role in society, the shadow, which contains all that is personally unknown and what the person considers morally reprehensible, and the anima or the animus, which respectively carry their feminine and masculine values. For Jung, Many unconscious conflicts at the root of neurosis are caused by the difficulty to accept that such a dynamic can unbalance the subject from his habitual position and confront her or him with aspects of the self they were accustomed to ignore. Once individuation is completed, the ego is no longer at the center of the personality. The process, however, does not lead to a complete self-realization, and that individuation can never be a fixed state due to the unfathomable nature of the depths of the collective unconscious. Two important principal concepts that Jung in analytical psychology talks about that we will focus on are the shadow and persona. The shadow, as mentioned before, is an unconscious complex defined as the repressed, suppressed, or disowned qualities of the conscious self. According to Jung, the human being deals with the reality of the shadow in four ways: denial, projection, integration, or transmutation. Jung himself asserted that the result of the Freudian method of elucidation is a minute elaboration of man's shadow side unexampled in any previous age. According to analytical psychology, a person's shadow may have both constructive and destructive aspects. In its more destructive aspects, the shadow can represent those things people do not accept about themselves. For instance, the shadow of someone who identifies as being kind may be harsh or unkind. Conversely, the shadow of a person who perceives himself to be brutal may be gentle. In its more constructive aspects, a person's shadow may represent hidden positive qualities. This has been referred to as the gold in the shadow. Jung emphasized the importance of being aware of shadow material and incorporating it into conscious awareness to avoid projecting shadow qualities on others. The shadow may also concern great figures in the history of human thought, or even spiritual masters who became great because of their shadows or because of their ability to live their shadows in full without repressing them. The persona, derived from the Latin term for a mask as would have been worn by actors, is another key concept in analytical psychology. It is the part of the personality that manages an individual's relations with society and the outside world, and works the same way for both sexes. The persona, which is at the heart of the psyche, is contrary to the shadow, which is the true personality, but denied by the self. The conscious self identifies primarily with the persona during development in childhood, as the individual develops a psychological framework for dealing with others. Identifications with diplomas, social roles, honors and awards, with a career, all contribute to the apparent constitution of the persona and do not lead to knowledge of the self. For Jung, the persona has nothing real about it. It can only be a compromise between the individual and society, yielding an illusion of individuality. Individuation consists, in the first instance, of discarding the individual's mask, but not too quickly, as often it is all the patient has as a means of identification. The persona is implicated in several symptoms, such as compulsive disorders, phobias, shifting moods, and addictions, among others. In conclusion, both philosophies have arguably driven a lot of technological, economic, and political advancements in modern societies. Especially in Western society, the question, however, is to what extent. Some would say the hyper-capitalistic nature of certain places encourages the degradation of the human condition, turning man from a gregarious creature into one of an insatiable avarice. Perhaps this is the natural progression of man, a being that constantly seeks inner enlightenment and the sequestration of power, ever improving and evolving. But as Jung says, individualism could just be an illusion, with anthropocentrism being more of a disease than a net positive. Anthropocentrism, and by extension individualism, could destroy the earth that man calls home. The obsession that man has with progress potentially separates man from the natural world, or perhaps binds him closer to it. The duality of the shadow and persona puts mankind in a lukewarm state that seems to have Western society in a sort of stagnant loop. Perhaps it isn't stagnation, but a collection of the unconscious that is humankind as a whole. And that's all, folks. Don't forget to leave a like, and if you enjoy the content, subscribe. It will only take a second of your time. Stay tuned for more topics in history, mythology, the esoteric, and the occult. Until next time, see you in the next video.